She had always thought of herself as someone in control, someone who could manage her emotions no matter what life threw at her. But that evening, sitting by the window of her small apartment, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars, she realized just how fragile her control really was. Her name was Aisha, a young woman in her mid-20s, ambitious and full of life. Yet when it came to matters of the heart, she was unprepared. She had always believed in reason, in planning her future meticulously, in making decisions with her mind rather than her heart. Love had always seemed like an abstract idea to her, a story she read in books or watched on screens, something that could sweep people off their feet but never really her. Until she met him. His name was Zion, and from the very first moment, he seemed to unravel everything she thought she knew about herself. They had met at a mutual friend's birthday party, a casual gathering that neither of them had been particularly excited about attending. He had been there with his friends, a calm presence among the crowd, standing slightly apart yet somehow drawing attention without trying. When their eyes met for the first time across the room, it was not dramatic or cinematic, but something about the look lingered, like a silent question, a curiosity, an unspoken recognition. Aisha tried to ignore it at first. She told herself it was just a glance, a fleeting moment that meant nothing. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Throughout the evening, they found themselves repeatedly thrown into each other's company, a shared laugh here, a casual conversation there, until by the end of the night, they were standing outside on the balcony, the city below them glittering, and talking as if they had known each other for years. He asked her questions that made her reflect, that made her laugh, that made her heart feel lighter and heavier at the same time. She realized she was talking more than she had in years, revealing parts of herself she had never shared with anyone. And yet, when she looked at him, there was no judgment, only an ease, a comfort she had never felt before. Over the next few weeks, their paths continued to cross, sometimes deliberately, sometimes by chance. Aisha found herself thinking about him at odd times, during work, while walking home, even while cooking dinner. She caught herself smiling at nothing, remembering a joke he had made or the way his eyes lit up when he talked about something he loved. At first, she tried to suppress these feelings, convincing herself that this was infatuation, a temporary excitement that would fade. But it didn't fade. It grew. It grew in ways that made her feel both exhilarated and terrified. One evening, Zion invited her to a quiet cafe he loved, a small place tucked away on a side street, with soft music and warm lights. As they sat across from each other, sharing stories and dreams, Aisha realized that her heart was no longer under her control. Every laugh, every glance, every brush of his hand against hers sent a shiver through her body. She tried to act casual, to maintain the calm composure she prided herself on, but her mind and heart were at war. She was falling for him, deeply, completely, and she had never experienced anything like this before. Days turned into weeks, and their connection only deepened. They began spending more time together, sometimes talking for hours on the phone, other times meeting for quiet walks in the park. Zion had a way of making her feel seen, truly seen, in a way that left her both vulnerable and exhilarated. She found herself sharing her fears, her past hurts, her dreams, and in return, he shared his own, creating a bond that was intimate and profound. Yet, despite the closeness, there was a part of her that held back, a fear that opening her heart fully would leave her exposed. One rainy evening, as they sat by the river watching the rain fall in silver sheets, Zion turned to her and said something she would never forget. He told her that he had been trying to find the right words for a long time but that his heart could no longer wait. He told her that he felt something for her that went beyond friendship, beyond infatuation, something that was real and deep and enduring. He looked at her with such sincerity that Aisha felt her defenses crumble. Her heart surged with a feeling she could no longer ignore, a mixture of fear and desire, of longing and surrender. She realized that she loved him, truly, completely, and that trying to control her emotions was futile. The next few months were a whirlwind of emotions. Their love grew stronger, but it was not without challenges. Aisha's fear of losing control sometimes clashed with Zion's natural ease and openness. There were moments of doubt, moments of insecurity, moments when her mind tried to take over, reminding her of past hurts and failures. But each time, Zion's patience, his understanding, and his unwavering love reminded her that love was not about control. It was about trust, about surrender, about opening one's heart fully even when it felt risky. Aisha found herself changing in ways she hadn't anticipated. She laughed more freely, loved more openly, and experienced life with a depth she had never known. She realized that her attempts to control everything had been a way to protect herself, but in doing so, she had missed out on the beauty of vulnerability, the magic of connection, the thrill of being truly seen and loved. With Zion, she learned that it was okay to let go, to feel deeply, to let her heart lead even when the path was uncertain. There were days of quiet happiness, where they would sit together, talking or simply enjoying each other's presence. There were days of laughter so intense that her stomach ached, and days of tears when life's challenges threatened to pull them apart. But through it all, their love endured, strengthened by honesty, patience, and an unspoken promise to stand by each other no matter what. Aisha often reflected on the journey that had brought her here, to this place of profound love and emotional surrender. She remembered the early days, when she had tried to maintain control, when she had feared the intensity of her feelings. She realized now that her heart had always known what it wanted, even when her mind had tried to resist. And in allowing herself to love fully, to embrace vulnerability, she discovered a strength she had never known, a joy that could not be measured, a connection that transcended fear. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the rooftop of her apartment, Zion took her hand in his and whispered softly, "I don't want to imagine a life without you." Aisha felt a tear slide down her cheek, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming truth of that moment. She knew then that love was not about control or caution. It was about surrender, about trusting someone with the deepest parts of your soul. And she trusted him completely. Their love story continued to unfold, not as a series of grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but as a quiet, persistent presence that filled their days with meaning. It was in the small moments, sharing coffee in the morning, holding hands during a walk, exchanging knowing glances across a crowded room, that their love thrived. It was in the laughter, the tears, the challenges, and the triumphs that they found the depth of their connection. Aisha often marveled at how far she had come, from a woman who believed she must always control her emotions to someone who could embrace love fully, with all its risks and rewards. She had learned that the heart, when allowed to guide, could lead to places of unimaginable beauty, that surrendering to love was not weakness but courage, and that true intimacy required both vulnerability and trust. As the seasons changed, their bond deepened. They traveled together, exploring new places, sharing new experiences, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. Each journey, each adventure, strengthened their connection, teaching them not only about the world but about each other. Aisha discovered that love was not static, it was dynamic, evolving, and sometimes unpredictable. Yet, in the midst of life's uncertainties, their love remained a constant, a safe harbor in a world of chaos. One quiet night, as they sat under a blanket of stars, Zion turned to Aisha with a smile that made her heart leap. He spoke of the future, of dreams they could chase together, of a life built on shared values, trust, and endless love. And as she looked into his eyes, she knew that this was the culmination of everything she had felt, everything she had feared, and everything she had hoped for. Her heart, once so guarded, had found its home, and in that surrender, she had discovered the truest form of happiness. Aisha realized that control had never been the key to a fulfilling life. Love had been. The ability to let go, to trust, to embrace vulnerability, had brought her closer to joy than she had ever imagined. And in Zion, she had found not only a partner but a reflection of her own heart, a love that understood, accepted, and cherished her completely. As they sat there, hand in hand, watching the night sky, she whispered softly, "I never knew love could feel like this." And he replied, "Neither did I. But now that we have it, let's never let it go." In that moment, surrounded by the quiet hum of the city and the infinite expanse of the stars, Aisha knew that her heart had taken over, and she would never look back. She had surrendered to love, and in doing so, she had found everything she had ever longed for. Their journey continued, filled with laughter, challenges, shared dreams, and countless moments of tenderness. Every day brought a new opportunity to love more deeply, to understand more fully, and to cherish the bond they had created. And through it all, Aisha carried a quiet gratitude for the moment her heart had finally led the way, for the love that had changed her life forever, and for the man who had taught her that surrendering to the heart was the bravest, most beautiful thing she could ever do.